Welcome to the Wild Food Network, where we explore the stories, science, and secrets of the wild edible world of food. All right, I'm here with the Forager, Triya. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about just kind of basics of foraging, and before we get too far into that, I'd love to learn about your background, Triya, and where are you in the world, and what got you started in foraging.
Okay, I'm over here in the Pacific Northwest in Washington State. Initially, I came here from California, and when we first got here, we picked slough. So basically, you pick slough in the forest. So as soon as I figure out you can make money in the forest, so it doesn't include just slough, it's mushroom as well. Um, then then they have like many different kind of mushroom. Initially, I picked yellow chanterelles to start off, but then when we found about masatake, the
Yeah,
king of mushroom, in my opinion, and how much money people can make, yeah, I got bitten by the bug ever since.
that's really cool. So what drew you to? I guess first, what is slough? What is it? A plant? Is it what is it for the people who might not
It
know?
is a plant that they use with floral decoration, like with roses. Not like ferns. They pick fern as well. So slough and ferns, they to decorate in a vase. Basically, and it goes overseas to like a lot of the slough. They go overseas too, to the Netherlands. Wherever there's abundant of flowers.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then you mentioned chanterelles next, and then you got into matsutake. All really interesting things that I wanted to touch on. But first off, like, where are you originally from? And you know, how did your how did your how did you learn about wild food? Really?
Well, like back in the days, this we came up here in like 1991, and like I said, the first thing we picked was slough.
Hmm.
And then where there's slough on the coast, there's also a yellow chanterelle. So a friend of mine told me, "Hey, we picked these mushrooms," and dude, there was so much of these mushrooms that I was just driving around in my Jeep, and every time I would spot a yellow chanterelle, I'd stop the car and cut it, and then move on to the next. Keep driving and moving on to. There was just so much of it like that, and
and,
that's basically how I got into mushroom.
and where were you at that time? And
Uh,
where are you now?
I was in Forks, Washington, on the Olympic Peninsula,
Okay, okay.
and now I am situated very close to all three volcanoes here at St. Helens, Rainier, Mount Rainier, and
Yeah.
Adams.
Yeah. Nice. Very cool. Very cool. And I know you personally, so this is kind of like a very, this is not like a broad question, but you are there with your family, and your family picks with you, which I think is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. So tell me a little bit about that. Did your family start picking before you did, or did you kind of all get into it about the same time?
We kind of all got in it to the same time, but at one point, we move on to like, official work, in the city. But then you have traffic and all that, and not just that. It's the industry that I was in is pretty much miserable. So at one point in time, I said, okay, I got to get out of here. It's just too miserable. So I went and came to, pick mushroom commercially. Yeah, my brother's a buyer also, and then my mom and dad, they pick as well. So everybody in the family basically pick, except for my sister. Smiley picks too. You met Smiley. As
Yeah, your brother Smiley. Yeah, yeah,
a
absolutely.
matter of fact, he just called. He wanted to come out.
But yeah, what's he want to pick?
Oh, lobster.
Nice, nice. And you've been finding lobster mushrooms recently here, there in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yes, I've been finding it since probably end of July.
Wow, wow. Is
Yeah.
that early, or is that about around the time that you guys, get lobster mushrooms out there?
Yeah, it's about that time. We usually get lobster mushroom a little bit before everybody else, but the coast they get it before, like a month before. So if you were like on the Washington coast, you would get that. Since I'm like right in the middle, so I'll get that late. I'll get it later than them.
Yeah, yeah.
But with that rain we got, I'm hoping it'll explode pretty fast.
Very cool, very cool. Before we get into commercial picking versus recreational picking, and also before we delve too too far into the species and the weather and all that, I'd love to know uh, what are some foraging supplies that you recommend the most? Foraging 101. Let's get into that.
Okay. First of all, you don't want to slip and slide, in the forest and break your ankle. So you would want to get a, non-slip bottom of your boot type of deal. You would definitely want to get some, decent rain gear and not too heavy because you don't want to be soaking wet and
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah,
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 some light rain gear and a bucket is a must. And if you were able to drill holes, small holes in the bucket to drain out the water, that'd be perfect. And a lot of people use straps, like some kind of like a luggage bag strap, one of
yeah.
those duffel bag straps, and they MacGyver it into, carrying it on the shoulder, the whole bucket. That way you have two hands free, you're more balanced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're talking more of the pickers around you are commercial pickers, right? They're not recreational because I know a lot of the recreational pickers, they'll use traditional baskets, like hand woven baskets or seagrass or things like that.
Yes,
I have a
yes.
really nice seagrass one that I use. Just sometimes it's not very conspicuous, and also like with buckets
But that
too.
also differentiate you as
Yeah,
a recreational picker versus a commercial picker because
interesting.
we never use that.
Yeah,
So
makes
as
sense.
soon as I see somebody with that basket, I was like, okay, okay, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna take you serious. But hey,
yeah,
welcome.
yeah,
We all enjoy picking mushroom,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
yeah, I have no, no animosity towards them because we all love mushroom.
Yeah,
Mushroom
absolutely.
is meant to be shared.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned the difference between a recreational and commercial picker, and for a lot of the people out there, I don't think they really understand that you can make a living picking wild food. And we'll get into the nitty gritty of that. But to start, I guess when did you start learning about the commercial space? Because it always fascinated me the first time I ever learned about it. But I know you've been around it way longer than I have. You mentioned that your brother's a buyer. What the heck is that? And yeah, where did your journey get started with commercial forging?
Okay, let's start with my brother.
Sure.
My brother, he's a buyer. Basically, he gets paid commissions to go out and buy mushrooms from Forager. So he can set up anywhere where there's mushroom popping out. It could be in Idaho, Montana, anywhere. I mean, we've we've gone as far as Alaska. He's gone as
Wow.
far as Alaska to buy mushroom up there. And so wherever there's an abundance of mushroom, there's always going to be a buyer, and not just one company. You got like four or five different companies probably setting up at the same town where there's an abundance of mushroom, and
Hmm.
and then you have competition. And and he started it god since he was like 18. So he's let me see, he's 1980, so he's 6 years younger than I am, so he's been doing it for quite a while.
Very cool. And have you ever picked for him in the past? And do you guys work together?
Yeah, definitely. I normally sell to him. Your brother. This way he makes a living off of me.
Yeah.
Why not? It's
Yeah,
family.
it's
So
family. Exactly. That's right. We're
yeah,
all
and
here.
and he's one of those buyers that he's paying less. He'll
Mhm.
he'll tell he'll tell the people to go sell to somebody else because you can't always be the higher price every day.
No, no. And yeah, I'd love to get into that a little bit more. And I guess before we get into this, I think a lot of people that I've talked to who don't really understand commercial foraging, and foraging in your neck of the woods is mostly commercial in terms of wild food. Um, they always talk about overpicking, over harvesting, and things like that. I guess before we get into that, you've been picking for how long now? Over 15 years, I would say.
More like 3 decades plus 5 years.
Wow. Okay. Do you cultivate your spots? Like, how do you not run out of mushrooms?
Well, the thing is, people have this misconception that once you pick one time you go pick everything and that's it. No, it's not. They fruit for like months at a time
Hmm.
sometimes. So if I go out, what I do is I farm my spots too. If there's nobody there, what I do is I pick it. I get all the bad one out so the next crop won't contaminate. And then every 2 3 days, depending on the weather, I would rotate. All you would need is like 4 or 5 spots. So
Really?
you would rotate, and and you can pick there for months.
Huh. And
So
you've been going to these spots for how long?
A long, long time, bro.
And they've never been depleted?
They've never been depleted. There is no such thing as overharvesting mushroom, in my opinion.
Sure.
In the
Sure.
35 years I've been doing this, there's only one main issue that comes out every time, and that is the weather.
Understood.
Lack of weather, you'll get less mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
the weather condition is perfect, the whole forest will explode, and people don't seem to understand that. And like even the internet, they people judge, because I have a YouTube channel, and they see me pick all this mushroom. It's like, oh, why aren't you leaving it for the animals? Oh, you're just
Yeah.
greedy. You're picking everything, but they don't know what I know. Mushroom will
Sure.
always come back in 3, 4 days, sometimes even 2 days, depending on how strong the mycelium network is underneath the ground. That's what people don't get.
Interesting. How long after a rain does it fruit? The golden question from all foragers.
That's gonna be depending on how mature the mycelium is underground before the rain hits. Now, if the mycelium is strong enough, it can fruit within 2, 3 days. And even better if it's already started. You already seen some, and then the rain come.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it gets exciting.
So, talk to me about this. Is so fascinating. Talk to me about the difference between uh, a mature mycelium, one that is quick to fruit, and one that is immature or not as quick to fruit or not ready to fruit. What are the conditions there?
Okay, okay. For instance, right? People don't notice, but sometime there is certain times when the mushroom would only flush one time, and you go back the next time, you won't see anything, and that to me is a weak network under the soil. But as for as a strong one, you can go back months and it'll still be popping. I've noticed that. It's like, why is it this year the lobster only came one time and was gone, or pine, or
Right.
king? It happens, but that's still a mystery to me. But I just think it's the how weak it is underneath, or how strong it is, the mycelium network that's underground. That's gonna either be abundant or not so much.
Have you found that weak mycelial networks, can get stronger, and vice versa, or is it they pretty much stay the same in the time period that you've been foraging?
I still think it all comes to weather.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I it's to me, I think the weather is the most crucial part in
Yeah.
all of it. Even if the like, okay, let's say that my network is pretty weak in one area, but if that area got the perfect condition, it will fruit just as well as all the other parts. You know how I know this? Because I've witnessed this phenomenon that happens like 10 or 15 or maybe every 20 years, that people never notice because they're only out, on the weekends and stuff like that. But I'm out there every day. It seems like certain part, one mushroom would just explode. It's like whether it be a honey mushroom,
Mm-hmm.
or king, or a masatake. Like that one year where everybody's picking like 300 pounds a day.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but I believe there is a cycle which the mushroom, a certain mushroom would do that, and maybe it's a survival mechanism that triggers that.
Sure. I guess a follow-up question to that. Really fascinating stuff here. What those years that you have a lot, and then obviously you have years that you don't have a lot. It seems like it's not really dependent on the weather, a little bit, but like, do you see it following the larger patterns of weather? So if there's like a larger drought period, it
No, no,
won't
no, no,
happen.
no. Let me stop you for a second. You know what it all is? It's the summer rain, bro. I am
Really,
telling you. If
really.
the rain comes at the right time, it'd be really, really good. And then let's say you were dry for like the whole summer, and then all of a sudden it's raining and raining and raining, and it's like, why isn't there no mushroom? You know? I think there's a pause. In my opinion, there might be a pause where it's too dangerous for the mushroom to fruit. It's too late. The temperatures,
Interesting.
yeah. So the temperatures like too harsh for them, so they might trigger, and that's why I think that July pine might have, because that's seemed like it was the condition for July pine.
Yeah,
You know,
read that back to me. What happened? What is July pine? What do you mean?
okay, that's crazy because you were there when it happened. I let you know.
That was a very exciting phone call to say the least. And what is pine
Okay,
mushroom, by the way, for the people who are listening?
okay. Pine mushroom is what we call it here in the United States, but in Japan they call it masatake. But when translated into English, it basically means pine mushroom as well.
Okay.
So yeah, so that year, the year before that it went crazy, we had harsh weather. For some reason, we had harsh weather, and then when it was time for them to fruit, barely anything was fruiting over there. At least at the area that I was picking, where I got all that mushroom.
What kind of harsh weather? What kind of harsh weather were you
You're talking about
seeing?
3 month spell of no rain, really dry.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So when it was time for it to fruit, it hardly did fruit. But so the following year after, I got a call from my brother. He's like, "Yeah, hey, some pickers think they found pine," and I'm
It's
looking like,
July.
dude, it's July. But
Yeah.
I've witnessed this 3 times.
Hmm.
Where I, when I was picking slough, like I told you when I first came here, I found pine mushroom in July. So I was like, "Hey, that's a possibility." And
You never
like
know.
I live here, bro. I live. It only took me half an hour to drive up there, and I kid you not, like I told you before, within the first few steps, I step into the woods where I know that I've seen pine, early pine there.
Hmm.
So I went to go investigate that, and sure enough, first 3 step I stepped in there, I saw this mound, and I was like, holy smoke, no way, no way. And then it was under moss,
Hmm.
so I uncovered the moss and I stopped. So I pulled out my camera. I said, "No way!" So it was pine, but that's not the tail end of it. The abundant was crazy.
How much you get out of there that day?
Oh my god! I was only there for like it was already like 3:30 when I got up there. Yeah, around 3 or 3:30. I picked like 50 pounds. I was only there for like maybe a few hours. 50
Wow.
pound, and the next day I picked over 100 pounds by noon.
Wow. By noon.
Yeah,
Not even a day, not even a day's worth.
yes, not even a day's worth. By noon, it was. I mean, you couldn't even move without seeing mushroom. That's without seeing pine mushroom. It's that much.
Jesus. And I guess the question that I have, that I think some of the people listening might have as well, is you mentioned July is not natural for pine mushrooms. When do you
No,
usually
it's three
find them?
months early.
So they're
It's
usually
3 months
for
early.
you guys. That's September, October, I would assume, at the
Yeah,
Pacific
yeah.
Northwest.
September, sometime mid-September, somewhere around there. But
Wow, wow,
3 months early. That's like unheard of. And then I was thinking to myself, okay, why did it happen? Why is it like
yeah,
that? And I
yeah.
remember the year before there was, it was really brutal weather, harsh weather. That's why I seem to think that there is a survival mechanism
Kind
for,
of yeah,
the
cyclical in a
mycelium.
way. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
totally.
like, okay, we need to shut down,
Yep.
and then like snow came, and then like, and then it was done for the season. But somehow after the snow melt, they came. That's
Do
how
you,
you.
do you think it was abnormally like warm for that time of year, and that was why they fruited?
Oh my god, bro! We were picking masatake in 95 plus degree weather, and
Wow.
ironically, it wasn't wormy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so talk about that. What do you mean wormy for a mushroom
It's
to be
where they
wormy?
get eaten up by bugs. They make these little holes in the stems and stuff. But it wasn't. It was eaten up by millipedes.
Really? So there was like
Yeah,
chunks taken out of it.
yeah,
Interesting.
and the mushroom is not wormy. It's just getting eaten up, by chunks by the millipedes.
Wow. And for how much you sold those, right? You sold those to the market?
Yes, yes.
Interesting. And how much, what was the price of pine at that point in your career?
Well, I didn't get a good price. I was only getting like $15 a pound
Okay.
for them,
Okay.
but I could have easily got like 20 something. I just didn't want to drive,
Sure.
far.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, but I was making like I don't know, over 1,500, 2,000, and sometimes even like close to 3,000 a day.
It,
but for a short period of time. It was
yeah,
only
yeah.
yeah.
Did it continue to fruit until October, or was that kind of that was it, right?
Um, it didn't continue all the way. It actually halted. That's the crazy thing, right? It actually halted. It only flushed for like 3 weeks,
Wow.
and then it stopped. And then during the regular season, it came back. That I was like, it's not gonna come. I'm thinking, no way. But I would like to know. So I
Sure.
went up there, and sure enough, bro, you can still find pine mushroom during the regular season. So
Wow.
we double dipped that year for
Wow.
Masataki.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. And I guess you still pick that spot today, right? It's still producing, obviously, even after that kind of crazy flush. It didn't
Oh yeah, yeah,
die
yeah,
out.
dude. Like I still tell you, everybody too. Everybody that's been picking commercially for years. It's all dependent on the summer rain. When the rain is abundant, wherever you went to pick, all your normal patches will go bonkers.
How do you find your patches?
Well, a lot of it is scouting. Man, you don't know how much money I spent on
Gas
just
money, just driving
scouting.
down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the wear and tear in the vehicle. So
Hmm.
it's basically, priceless, like the effort you put in to find these spots.
When you find these spots, do you how do you mark them on an app or in your in on like a before the apps? How did you remember all these spots just by memory? Like I'm sure you've got hundreds of spots by now, given the fact that this is your full time job to pick wild food.
Yeah, yeah. Back then, it's by memory. Yeah, you would have to have a really good memory just to even remember
Hmm.
the spot, and then let alone to traverse that area, that spot, and be able to get back to your car. Back in the days, it was pretty dangerous for a picker because back in the days, you would hear news about people getting lost and dying.
Wow.
Every year, there's always a few people, but thank God we're in the GPS age,
Yeah,
and
I
I
know, right?
do, yes, and I do use a GPS app, and I even teach people how to use that app, on my channel, Mushroom Forts and Adventures, because I do bring people out, guys. They come on an adventure with me. They pay me for an adventure, but I tell them I believe, if you're gonna be picking, you might as well do it in a safe way, and to have
Absolutely.
some kind of GPS app is the ideal. And it does even more these days. You can mark the patches and go
Mm,
back to it every time. So
very cool. Very cool.
yeah. So if you are gonna go out, get yourself a GPS, guys.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. In terms of your how you pick and what seasons, you said your brother travels. Do you travel as well for different species of wild food?
Yeah, I travel all over Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. That is the normal route for most commercial pickers that we do. Yeah, we'll be here, like here in the Pacific Northwest. We'll be here up in Washington up until November. Then we move on to the Oregon coast and Northern California because everything else is going to get snowed. Only down there you're able to pick the other, what we call winter mushroom or winter's pick, basically, and that is the yellow chanterelles, the black trumpet, the hedgehog, the yellow feet, and possibly a few more.
Yeah. So talk to me more about the species that you're going after. You mentioned matsutake or pine mushroom, lobster mushroom. You mentioned briefly chanterelles, which was what kind of the first ingredients that you got into. And then you just mentioned the winter pick, which I don't think anyone really knows that from the East Coast. Winter is chaga, turkey tail, things like that. Like it's not. I grew up picking, and it's not the same. There's not mushrooms fruiting, and maybe like if you're in the southeast. But so yeah, describe to me, the different seasons that are available to you out in the Pacific Northwest and on the coast that you were talking about.
Okay, let's start off. Most commercial foragers, they don't always pick just mushroom. They have to subsidize by picking other things too. But let's start with the Oregon coast. Yeah, that's where we all end up, and we're usually there until like the end of February, probably picking other stuff other than what I just mentioned. The mushroom that I just mentioned. You also have stinging nettles that'll pop up there and fiddlehead ferns. Um, it's it's That's what everybody do. I mean, they're always following the convoy of commercial picking.
Yeah.
Convoy. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you pretty much, if you want to ask me, you can actually do most of all that like 9 months out of the year if you were to add huckleberries in there. Not just huckleberries, other berries too, like dewberries and black raspberries, and you can actually follow this. But most of the time, they pick the mushroom is basically makes the bulk of their income.
Very interesting. How how would you describe the how do you sell? I mean, there's just so many questions that I have about the commercial market, and I'm sure other people do too. Where there's so much abundance of wild food,
It,
obviously in your
it
area, your neck of the
it's easy
woods,
to sell.
and there it doesn't seem like there's a risk of overharvesting because there's been proven kind of methods and ways to cultivate the patches.
Okay, okay. They did a study in Europe, like way back, right? They left an area forest virgin, nobody touches, and then they had another forest where foragers constantly, trampling over it and all that. And the conclusion was, the census was, it didn't even make hardly any difference whether people pick or people left it alone.
Interesting. And I
Yeah,
think there was another study in Switzerland,
yeah,
actually.
that's the one I'm talking about.
I think they also did another study in a similar area in Europe
Yeah.
that was in regards to picking versus cutting. And you mostly cut, or what is your harvesting method when you're harvesting?
I like to cut because the reason why I like to cut, the yellow chanterelles. I'm talking about yellow chanterelles because lobster mushroom I do not cut because I don't
Can't
want to
really
give
cut a
my.
lobster. Yeah, you can't
No, no,
really
you
cut it.
don't want to give your patches away, even kings, because people don't know that it's just a fruiting body. So when people see you pluck the king and not shave, and or the lobster, they try to pick shame you. I was like, yeah, and they're not going to grow back, but they don't know better because
Mhm.
we already know there's studies proven, that it doesn't make no difference because mushroom is just a fruiting body. And then, like, the reason why I like to cut the yellow chanterelle is it's more cleaner. With the yellow chanterelle, the less you touch, if you pick clean, cut clean, you don't have to worry. Just dump in a basket, you're done. But if you were to pick dirty, you if you don't cut clean enough too, you have to cut above the dirt, so there's really no dirt left. That way, the product is better. So I think overall, is the less you touch, the more bruised the chanterelles are, the better quality is, and you do get a better price. Certain buyers will give you a better price because your mushroom is nice.
And you're not cutting all of your mushrooms, right? You said you don't cut porcini. Well, you cut porcini in a way. I, for myself here in the Rocky Mountains, I live in Colorado.
I like
Um,
to go find a spot, like where
gotcha,
there's no mushroom, and then shave it over there and
gotcha. So you
discard.
don't so you don't give away your spot, basically.
Yeah, and in a way, I'm spreading the spores too
Yeah,
because
you're spreading it to other
it,
areas. Yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense.
and these spots are known not they're not known to have the mushroom, so I'm basically help spreading the spores.
Yeah, makes sense. In regards to selling the mushrooms, how does that work? When you're ready to sell your wild food, would you just go to a website? Do you how does that all work?
Oh, no, no, no. There's buyers like my brother waiting to buy. I mean, you'd be surprised on how many. Like, if you were to back in the days, up in Oregon, there'll be like 15, 20 buyers just trying to
Wow.
flag you down to buy your mushroom.
And are they just
Yeah,
situated in town, or like where are they?
yeah. They'll go into a particular town, and then they rent the spot, and then they'll have other buyers that does the same, and next thing you know, you have like 10, 15, 20 buy stations back in the days, in for Masataki. you know
Wow. Wow.
yeah, I mean, there's no shortage, and a lot of the buyers, they have the pickers, contact. They can call them, hey, you want to go check these? I need this, I need that. So it's actually pretty easy to sell. It's just, how much are you gonna get?
Yeah, explain to me that. What's the current dilemma in the market right now and overall amongst pickers? You were mentioning some things to me. I would love to dig into that a little bit.
Okay, let's start off with huckleberries right now. Right now, we're in the midst of huckleberry right now, and Idaho. Okay, let's get this out there for people in Idaho and people here in Washington. Idaho, you can hand pick no raking and no commercial picking. But then you have these people selling Idaho on Facebook Marketplace, selling Idaho
Interesting.
huckleberry, you know.
Interesting.
And then here in Washington, it's also they closed the whole season for huckleberries. So instead of the price being higher because of, with all this restriction, it's not. It should be at least $5 more a pound for what it is now.
What is it currently right now?
I think anywhere from 8 to 8.50 around there
Per pound, right? You're talking
per
per pound.
pound. Yes, yes. And prior years, not last year, but prior years before, it never went down below 10.
So what's with all the restrictions?
Uh, God, that's. I have my own suspicion, but like I said, it's only a suspicion.
Sure,
But
sure.
I think it's like in Idaho. Okay, a lot of people that live in that particular town, they don't like other people from like California, Oregon, or Washington to be up there. And so they would tell they would I guess they would complain to the forestry down there, and that's how they got the restriction. And
Interesting.
I don't believe in raking. Back then they were raking. Only this year in Idaho, I think they prohibit raking, so
And
you
what
can
is
only handpick.
describe raking versus handpicking to anyone who might be listening?
Well, there's a basically call it a berry rake or a huckleberry rake or blueberry rake, whatever. But basically, you don't need your hand to pick. You just go up to a bush with this rake in your hand. It has a compartment where it holds it, and all you do is just rake right into it. You know,
Interesting. Does it
rake.
affect the bush at all? Does it hurt the future berry production?
Honestly, I don't really know, but all I can tell you this: if there was raking before last year, and I went there this year, and the fruit is so abundant, I kind of seem to think not.
Interesting. So you are also seeing in berries that there is not any impact on future harvest if you pick quite an abundance of berries, for example, because
Yeah.
it's different than mushroom, right? Mushrooms are you get spores, whereas berries are different. If you
Well,
find,
it's still a fruit,
hmm
right? Right.
hmm
Like the mushroom we pick, it's a fruiting body. A berry is also a fruiting body. But what I do notice about the berries is sometime when they start to flower and the wind is too strong, the flower just falls off, and that might play a little bit of a part in that.
so weather obviously still has
Yes,
obviously
weathers. Yes.
weather, but overall though, you are you going back to the same spots that you pick just like mushrooms every year after year, and they're
Yes, every year, and every year is always different, and there's always less, there's always more. So
yeah, it could be
I'm
different. Yeah, I see what you mean.
yeah, my consensus is still on the weather.
Yeah, makes sense. That's fascinating. So you mentioned huckleberry. You mentioned quite a few other ingredients there, and then winter pick. Obviously, we went into that. That was a black trumpet, yellowfoot chanterelle, winter chanterelles.
Uh-huh.
So there's a winter and a summer variety for you guys. And
Yes.
then the other thing that we've talked about before that I think would be really interesting to kind of dig into is truffles. So talk to me about the truffle production domestically. Obviously, like you think of truffles, you think of imported from Europe, Italy, France.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't. Like I've only been newly introduced to truffles. I've heard about it before. I've seen people pick it. I've even found like a few in the wild by accident. So with
Really?
everybody, yeah,
Wow.
everybody should know. Well, the squirrel dug it up, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I've
yeah.
heard that the animals will actually kind of pinpoint where the truffles are if you're in a
Yes,
producing
yes,
area.
and that's what I've heard from a lot of the pickers that I've run into. That
Mhm.
they say, yeah, you can find them. All you look for is the squirrels. They'll dig it up. They'll start the dig, but they never finish it. And if you can notice it, you can go find. You can dig after them.
Yeah, and I will say there is quite a bit of mysticism. Maybe is not the right term, but just interest and intrigue around harvesting truffles and the proper way to harvest truffles. You've been mostly introduced recently to dog harvest. So
Yes.
what? Talk to me the difference between that and traditional methods of getting truffles domestically here in the United States.
Well, they well, let's come back to raking. They
Hmm
also rake truffles. So basically what they do is they would lease a tree farm that's where the root system is infected with the truffle, and they would just go under there and just start raking. And you'll the thing about the raking is you also get the non-ripened one, but versus a dog, the dog will only sniff out the ripened one.
Gotcha, gotcha. And they're not using pigs as people may have interpreted before. I think there's like a movie called Pig. It's about truffles. They're using dogs. They're using dogs here in the U.S.
Yeah, I too did not know they were using dogs now, because I've only, heard that back in the days in France and stuff they were using pigs to harvest, truffles.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the legality of picking in the United States. Obviously, I grew up on the East Coast. The legality there is much different for commercial harvesting versus the West Coast. Yeah, what's involved for you as a commercial forager in the Pacific Northwest? And I'll get into my experience out east. What is the process for, can anyone do this? Do you have to be an expert? And how does that work?
Well, it comes back to the buyers. The buyers are not going to buy crap that they don't want.
Oh, so the buyers are the experts here. They're the one vetting the actual
Yeah, so
mushroom.
when you I've seen a lot of people that first started out, they're bringing all kinds of different mushroom, and the buyers going there. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Yeah, okay, this is it. You find more of this. Okay, so basically, unlike you guys over in the East Coast, the West Coast, the buyer tells people, this is what we want. This is what we need. You go get it. But versus the East Coast, where I know people over there have to take a class to go harvest mushroom out in the wild, you know.
I had to
So
take that class as well, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
was
So remember when you first asked me, it's like, "Are you certified?" I was like, "What is that?"
two different
And then
worlds.
yeah, and then you asked me, it's like, "Oh, how long you been doing this?" 30 plus years. Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
you're
you're
definitely the
you're
expert.
over certified.
Yeah, I had to take a class. I grew up in North Carolina. Started selling commercially chanterelles. I had my spots on a ranch that I grew up at in Western North Carolina, and it was just loaded with Appalachian chanterelles and a very unique type of chanterelle called the smooth chanterelle. And a lot of chefs, it's very fruity aroma,
Oh,
wonderful,
okay.
wonderful ingredient. And yeah, it's if you don't know what you're doing, since there are no buyers,
Mm-hmm.
it's tricky,
Yeah,
right?
you can poison somebody.
Yeah, you don't want to do that's a bad time, right?
Yeah, that
So
is.
I had to take a class over at Mushroom Mountain with Olga Kotick. It was great. Trad Cotter was there at the time, and in fact, I think next year is when I need to renew the certification. But apparently, it's got a good repertoire amongst most of the community. Some people don't like it, but overall, it's a great way to learn about wild food and what's good and what's not. I had to intensively study for a test in order to get the certification. And overall, it was a wonderful experience, and I've learned a lot from it. And going to the West Coast, completely different, right? Like you go out there, and you know what you're looking for, right? You're looking for lobsters, you're looking for whatever you're picking at the time. It's August 7th, so right now you're picking lobster, a little bit of huckleberry, some dewberries, things like that, and then the buyer's obviously buying from you.
So basically, instead of going to school, the buyers are the one that's actually kind of in a kind of way they're teaching you what to go pick.
And tell me about the grades, because I know that was the thing that fascinated me the most about the industry was how meticulous they are and how meticulous the customers of the buyers are. Which, for anyone who may not know, a customer of a wild food buyer is going to be any chef, any distributor, any fine food that's going to either consumers or to commercially or I guess distributed to restaurants. So
What grading system are you asking? Are you asking about the Masataki grades or?
yeah, it's a great question. How many different grading systems are there? Is it different for each ingredient? How does that work?
Oh, for Masataki, there's 5 different grades. If So basically, you get paid by the grade. Like a button pays more. Uh, the one that just came out of a button stage, but still have like a 50% more than 50% veil, that's a number two. So usually those are like maybe $1 or two difference, or sometimes it's even like the same price. And then number three pays less. Number three is open veil, no, less than 50% veil left. So it's a number three. And number four is no veil left, but still round at the top. And then number five is the one no veil either, but the cap starts to curve up. So that's number five. Of course, wormy. You have the wormy. So if you count that, that'll be number six.
Dryers, you call them dryers. I
Yeah,
think
I
I've heard you
call
say
them
that.
dryers. Yeah, and then people, I mean, people still buy those to dry. Even to dry, they'll still buy those from you, the wormy ones, at a few dollars a pound for them, or $1 or two at least.
You had a couple other different types of scales for different types of ingredients. What beyond matsutake? What are the other grading scales that you find for the buyers?
God, even the chanterelle has grades too. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yes. What's the difference between that? Like, is it how big the mushroom is?
Yes, yes. Button ones, like restaurant size buttons, where the presentation of a whole mushroom is better than a big old, you know, big old mushroom that can almost be the size of the plate.
Yeah, yeah.
And it does happen. Chanterelles do get pretty big sometimes. Yeah, so there is, even with lobster mushroom too. There's like usually with like the chanterelle we just went through. Um, the grading system is all like, it's button versus really big one, and you have top dollar, then you have field price, where everything's mixed. You can separate it to get the top dollar for one, or or you can just mix it and get a little bit less, depending on what you have. If you have more of the button ones, you of course you want to separate it, then you get the top dollar. And then if you have more of the big ones, of course you want to sell a field run, because or else you're gonna get the bottom of the grading scale, which is very low.
Who do these buyers work for? Are they working for themselves or for?
Oh, no, no, they're contracted by these big companies, these mushroom companies. I'm not gonna say who, but there is quite a bit of them, at least four or five of them, like that I know of. I actually I used to work for one of them as a driver,
Okay. So you were driving the wild ingredients from the field to a warehouse?
to the warehouse. Yes, up in Portland. Yeah, I would like, at the end of the day, I would collect from 3 4 bars, whatever they bought that day, and then drive it to in the morning. Usually I get there like an hour or two before the warehouse open at 6. I would just sleep in their parking lot till they're open, and then as soon as they open, they unload, and then boom, I'm back up there to make another, to get ready for another load. So it's
Nice.
basically every day.
Wow. That sounds like a lot. And you did that for a little bit of time, and then now you're just picking for yourself.
Yes, yes. I enjoy I, I enjoy picking more than anything. I just don't like the politics in being a buyer. Yeah, I used to be a buyer myself, but I just don't like all the games that they play.
And what kind of games, without getting obviously into too much detail, like what is it that goes on for some of these buyers that should be
Oh,
noted?
dude, you're asking like a question that's gonna open up like a can of worms. Like suspicions I have, and not just suspicion. I've seen it.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, what it is price fixing amongst the big companies.
Interesting.
Like they would talk to each other, said, "Okay, let's not go over this price, and then if you go over this price, we're gonna retaliate and price war, that type of deal." For example, let me make an example. That way, and I'm not talking out of my what.
Yeah.
So, 1 year, a new buyer came in. He came in and paid like um, $13 a pound for either yellow chanterelles or hedgehog, or I can't remember, or black trumpet, one of those. So the other buyer, he was buying at $8 a pound, 13 versus
Hmm.
8. So the very next day, that buyer that was paying A said, "Oh yeah, you're paying that much price. They're not going to be paying that tomorrow." And sure enough, I guess he probably called the company's head, said, "Hey, I'm only paying 13. Your buyer's paying. Well, I mean, I'm only paying 8. Your buyer's paying 13." And sure enough, the next day, everybody's at $8.
Wow.
Yeah, bro.
How does that work? Are you just how does the process work? Is it credit like you just bring it in to a like to a house, or like how does the process for actual buying works for someone
Well,
who
they
doesn't know?
set up a buying station like one of those carport, you get
Mhm.
from Costco,
Like a
those
tent almost?
yeah, tent, yeah, yeah, big enough to drive your car in there. They would set that up at a small town here and there wherever they're gonna buy. And then they have a sign that says mushroom buyer. That way they let them know this guy's buying, I'm buying mushroom or whatever, right? Yeah, and that's basically it. And what they come is they'll the buyers would, one buyer would pay this, one buyer would pay that, sometime, a little bit of a difference, and of course as a picker you want to go, sell to the highest buyer, who's ever paying more. But sometimes that's not necessarily mean that you're going to make more, because I've done it myself. I sold one year I sold to this outfit. They were paying 5 while the other was paying 3. Well, the people that were buying at $5 for a lobster mushroom, and the other guy was paying 3. So I decided to test out and see if I was going to make more money selling at 5. And I kid you not, I made less. But you know why?
Why?
The $5 high graded. I'm like really, really high graded. I could have easily made more money selling at $3 a pound than $5 a pound.
Yep, makes
They
sense.
gave Yeah, they gave me like more than half of what I, was selling to them back. Rejected.
Is this all cash?
Yeah, it's all cash. Yeah. All the transaction is all cash when it comes to buying from the foragers.
How big is the market, you think, yearly?
Um, God, it's probably pretty huge. Um, and now it's actually pretty healthy with all these younger guys that's coming into play. All my generation people, we're like over 50 and plus. But then you got these younger guys coming in, and they're coming in whatever means they can come in, but they're here, and they're really hardworking. I give them, I give them credit, because I'm hiking in 4 hours. If I see these guys in there 4 hours, I'm not gonna say, I'm like, I'll give you props, dude. You're working just as hard as me. I'm not gonna,
Yep.
you got my respect. So a lot of these younger guys are coming in. I think that's what's actually keeping the market going for the specialty wild food industry. Yeah,
Interesting.
without these guys, all the veterans, we're just dying off.
Yeah,
Old
makes
age
sense.
is catching up to them. Yeah,
Fortunately,
yeah, and I'm one of the youngest ones around,
I
and
know,
I'm
and
I'm I'm 51 today. Happy birthday to me.
happy birthday to you.
Thanks, bro.
Hey, I didn't know it was your birthday today. Caught me off guard. Happy birthday, man.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
in terms of the amount, just to give the buyers, how much money is flowing through there? You think a year?
Oh God, this is nothing compared to what it was. These days, it's nothing compared to what it was. Now, I would say at any given time, God, hmm, I don't know, at least 30, 40,000 floating around to buy mushroom daily, and
Wow.
depending on the price, bro.
How many pounds a day you think they're buying overall,
Uh,
collectively, the industry a day?
Collectively, anywhere depending on the weather, like I said, anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 pounds
A day.
a day. Yeah, like with morels, dude, they can go crazy. A guy can pick 100 pounds a day.
And you're talking burn morels, right? You're talking
Yeah,
burn
I'm
morels.
talking about bird morels. A buyer can buy 1,000 to 3,000 pounds a day. Yeah, I mean, and you times that by the amount of picker that's out there, whether it be a few hundred, that even just a few hundred buyers, even 50 buyers, if you times that by 100 pound, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, makes sense. That's
and the reason why I mentioned the money amount is not the same like it was like before was back then when the Japanese were here buying. Dude, these guys would carry like a quarter mil, half a mil just to buy mushroom.
Talk to me about that. What's that all about in terms of what were they buying?
Masataki. They were specifically here to buy Masataki, and ship it back to Japan. Because back then the only market was Japan. But thankfully now where people are more aware of the Masataki, the pine mushroom here, so people are catching on more here domestically. So that's good. That's good sign because you don't have to sell for low price to the buyer. You can try to sell yourself directly.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. And I guess what's the highest you've ever seen a price per pound on a wild mushroom?
$500 a pound for Masataki, and it was only at $500 a pound for about 15 minutes. Then it dropped back to like 350 per pound for the rest of the day. But that was a fluke year, and you will never see that ever happen again. And the
Wow.
reason why it was that high because there was no crop in China or Korea, and people might not know this, but North Korea, who they actually shipped their masatake into Korea or China somehow. All the other places didn't have any. Even here in the States, we were only limited to one place, and that is in Oregon that
Wow.
was producing. And one mushroom was fetching like, $60, $70 for one mushroom. That's crazy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, you don't just do commercial harvesting too. So, I know of you, obviously, you're a great friend of mine, and you also do a lot of foraging tours. Talk about that. Like, what does that involve?
Okay.
What's the normal, what's a day to day like when you're doing a tour?
Oh, it's a lot easier, and a lot of people that's out here, they're enthusiastic about mushrooms, just like me and you. So basically, a lot of them don't have any outlet to come out. They don't know anybody that's doing it, or they don't even know how to begin. So last year, I started adventures with the Forager. So basically, they would email me and whatever mushroom they're interested in picking at that time. If I'm doing it, I'm picking it. Yeah, I let them come along with me for a price, of course, and they can pick my brains. While we're out there picking together, I'm teaching them what to look for. Every questions that they want answered when it comes to being a good forager, and what to look for. So it's all answered, and not just that. I was even teaching them how to use the GPS system so they don't get lost. Because I do not want to bring people out, inspire them, and they, in turn, when they go off their own and get lost and somehow don't make it home. Yeah. So and it's been fantastic. The people that's been wanting to come out, oh my god, within like the first 5 minutes I was announcing that I was going to do that last year, doing bringing people out, boom, email right away, and then so on and so on, and I did pretty good. I and a lot less work. But what people didn't know was I wasn't really putting them onto a new spot every time. I was basically taking everybody that came out to the same place, just rotating, and the reason I did that was I did it on purpose, bringing people back to the same spot. It's actually to better their skill. So if you're looking for the ones that's barely popping it out of the ground, and if you can find those already, you already better at it already. So it's like a foraging school on steroid, basically, when you come out with me. So it'll cut your foraging, like uh, experience, and like it'll like 5 years ahead or even 10 years.
Yeah,
Just being out with
it'll
me one day.
multiply it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn about picking. I'm super excited about what's to come with the Wild Food Network. Uh, you know, you also have your own company you recently started called Gourmet Harvest. Talk a little bit about that, and is it just your kind of commercial foraging business where you sell to directly to consumers? You mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason why I started is mainly because the buyers, they're not paying much really,
Mhm.
for the mushroom, for the product. They seem like they're making more money than what they're trying to pay the foragers. So even if I was to sell directly to the consumer, it's always going to be, they're still going to save more money because you're buying direct from me. So of course you're going to, pay less than what the middleman, the big companies are charging. So, and you know that I've I charge less. It also helps me. I don't have to work as hard, but still make the a good amount of money basically by selling myself. Hopefully, I can sell more to the consumers because that's where I really want to be, and sell directly to the consumer, and the product is going to be more fresh. It's not going to be sitting in the warehouse for a long period of time, and it's just going to be within a few days. It's going to get shipped out to the consumers.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's a win-win. The foragers that you're getting the product from get more money. The consumers get a better product and at a lower price.
Yes, that's the goal, and you know, I think it makes it even makes it more accessible for the people. Like and not that like because we don't always just sell. We do cooking. Maybe give you some ideas on how to cook it too.
Yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, and wish me luck on that.
Absolutely. And where can people find? You mentioned you had a YouTube channel. You've got Gourmet Harvest. Where can people find you online?
Oh, you can find me at on YouTube at Mushroom Forage Adventures, and also you can find our website over at Gourmet Harvest Co. That's where we feature our specialty products, that we're picking. So you can order straight from there, and then I will in turn ship it out to you as fresh as possible. So,
What are you picking right now? I guess is the last question I have for you before we go.
oh, I am currently right now. Lobster is starting to pop. Few chanterelles,
Nice,
and
nice.
yeah, and with this rain that we had, I think it's gonna be pretty good this season. So it's already better than last year already with the amount of rain we got. So hopefully every other mushroom we're gonna pick from now, it has a better chance to fruit even more.
Yeah, makes sense.
Pine
Makes sense.
mushroom or king or whatever.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you guys are getting rain. I'll be sure to shout that out next week on the picking reports that I will be doing for the entire U.S. I'm currently in the Rocky Mountains, so I'm at the base of the Rocky Mountains in Boulder, Colorado. You're all the way over the Pacific Northwest. Hoping I can make a trip out to you in October so we can do some
Ah, dude, that'd
stocky
be
picking.
fun.
I know. I can't wait. It's super excited. I've got a bum foot right now, so I'm really I'm kind of bummed I can't be in the woods, but it's pretty dry here, so hopefully we can get some moisture our way as well.
Well, if you talk about weather from last year here compared to this year, we're more lush than we were last year. So I'm thinking that's why I'm thinking that we're gonna have a pretty good season here up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Very cool.
So that is our mushroom forecast for this week. Join us for next week. We can give you another update
That's right.
on
We'll
what's
give you a
to
more
come.
detailed update. And yeah, Triya, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really excited to have you on again to talk about so many threads
We
to
can
pull
talk
on.
about whatever, bro.
Whatever we
Yeah,
want, man. We can talk for hours. I love it.
yeah, I was stoked to even have you invited me. Yeah, I appreciate you invited me, and a lot more knowledge has been passed on to whoever's listening. So you guys would have a better idea. No worries, bro. So this way, people are more knowledgeable. It's like they're not gonna say when they look in my videos, "Oh, you're picking all the mushroom. You're not leaving some for the animals, and and you're over harvesting." No, 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 no. I've been doing this for 35 years, and honestly, I don't think there's any such thing as over harvesting. It's all on the rain, and please don't shame other people from picking, even
That's
whether
right.
they pick it or not cut it or not cut it. Don't shame. I mean, it's just a fruiting body, and that is my final message. And I was glad to be here, bro.
Catch you next time. See ya. Thank you for listening to the Wild Food Network podcast. For maps, forecasts, and more, visit wildfoodnetwork.com. Happy hunting.